Hey everybody, Trendane here again with episode 3 of L2QA. For those of you who haven't seen episodes 1 or 2, please feel free to click on these annotations and they will take you back to episode 1 or 2 respectively. Or vice versa. It's a bug. It's what this whole thing is about, this whole series. Those of you who haven't seen episodes 1 or 2, they are about, episode 1 is about what it's like to be a black box tester, or just a regular end user game tester at a video game company. What's it like? Episode 2, a little bit shorter, is a slight expansion on that to like the next level of QA tester, which is the embedded tester, who is involved much earlier on in the development sequence and figuring out how they're going to test all the various things and writing the test plans and helping keep everybody within scope and whatnot like that. But this is about that crazy group of people who desperately want to do QA and not get paid for it. Which sounds bizarre until such time as you realize why they're doing it. I am one of those people, and there are hundreds of thousands of people just like that. Just like me. Well, not just like me, but just like that. Why would they want to do all this QA testing and not get paid for it? Well, if a company is having an open or closed beta or alpha, depending on where they are in their development cycle, maybe it's going to be a very big game. Maybe they feel that they don't have enough testers in-house to be able to give the game a proper look-see. Or maybe there are certain features that are so massive that they know they don't have the resources to shake all the bugs out of them. So maybe, especially if it's a game that's got a lot of hype, or they want to have a lot of hype, it's being highly anticipated, they will open up an open or closed alpha or an open or closed beta. Now what's the difference? Well, alpha and beta are pretty easy, especially if you've watched the earlier episodes. But for those of you that didn't, in the development cycle you have pre-alpha, alpha, beta, final, and gold. Is usually how a lot of game companies view it. Pre-alpha is when you are designing the game. You're designing the game, you're building the individual pieces and parts, all the different features, and then once you get into alpha, you start assembling or implementing those features and putting them all together. Once you get into beta, all the features, especially the major features, really ought to be there. At that point, you're no longer focusing on implementation, you're focusing on fixing any bugs that might be there. When you get to final, all of the bugs should be fixed, or at least as many of them as you're going to fix, except for the niggling little stuff or the huge catastrophic things that, for whatever reason, you haven't fixed yet and cannot ship with them in place. But final is mostly about polish, making things look better, making sure they run smoother. That's when we do optimization and we put it in really high-res textures and whatnot. And we get the sound just right. We get all the gameplay balance. We make sure everything's pretty as well as functional. Well, what about open and closed? I mean, if you're dealing with a beta or an alpha, if you're dealing with an alpha, they're still putting stuff together. I mean, it's like you go in and you're like, well, the crafting system is broken. And they're like, well, the crafting system's not in yet. We haven't finished it. We wanted to focus on testing this other stuff first. And you're like, oh, I didn't know that. And you're like, well, it's in the release notes right over here, which we asked you to read so that you wouldn't be reporting false bugs all the time. But thank you. Just bear in mind, the crafting system's not there yet. Okay, and on you go. But what's the difference between open and closed? Open and closed basically means that if it's an open alpha or an open beta, that means you don't really have to sign up. You just have to download the game client, connect to a specific server or whatever, and start playing. And then report your bugs wherever. If it's a closed alpha or beta, that means that you have to actually sign up. You have to earn the right to be in there. Now, in that case, cases like that, usually there are requirements for being selected. Now, a perfect example of this right now is the Elder Scrolls Online. They have this form that went out especially for anybody that is on their registered with their forums or whatever. And basically, it was a form that you could fill out to see to enter into the chance to get into the beta. And the more the questions you answered, and the better you answered them, the better, the fuller this little scale across the bottom got, and eventually it would fill up all green and it would say excellent, meaning that your chances of being selected to be in the beta were excellent because you had the skills they were looking for. Well, what are those skills? Well, if you go back to episode 1, you'll see exactly that. You have a very good sense of communication. You have, I say that as I stammer, you have a very good sense of communication. You have a sharp attention to detail on multiple levels and in multiple perspectives. You not only can see the niggling things. Oh, well, the bark texture on that tree is 90 degrees off from where it's supposed to be. Oh, well, if this is north, why is the sun rising in the north and setting in the south, but the shadows are moving east and west? Why is it that when I go crazy spamming the map button, the entire game crashes? These are all very important bugs that people need to know about, because it makes things look not quite as good. It's that kind of attention to detail that will get you selected for these kinds of things. Things that are likely to get you not selected is how likely are you to say, I don't really care about that, I just want to get in there and play. Then you're not the kind of person they're looking for. You might get selected anyway, it's very possible. There's a lot of people that are like that. There are a lot of people out there who all they want are the bragging rights to say that they got in there before anybody else did. Now, the problem with that particular bit of logic, and I understand the need to ego stroke every now and again. I understand that yearning for bragging rights. However, it doesn't do anybody any good. I mean, it doesn't make the game any better. And you getting in there before anybody else did, there were probably about 5,000 other people who were also selected to go in at the same time. So you weren't really the first person to get in there anyway. And to think that you were, there's a little bit of delusion going on there. But I'm not going to get into the psychosomatics of being who you are. Let's move on. So those are, in my opinion, the people who absolutely shouldn't be selected. Granted, some of them are going to get in there. Some of them are going to make it. And, okay, fine. There's no reason that you shouldn't be allowed to get in there. But while you're there, could you do me a little bit of a favor and try to enter a quality bug once in a while? Try to enter a bug once in a while. Don't just walk in and say, man, this place sucks. That doesn't do any good. And nobody takes you seriously if you do that. You go onto the forums screaming about everything you hate, but you don't go into anything that you like, people are going to start listening to you. So once you get in, regardless of whether you're one of the people that I won't say deserves. I started to, but I won't. One of the people that would benefit the game development cycle versus one of the people that really wouldn't benefit the game overall as far as its development. You get in. What do? Do you just play until something goes wrong? Well, you could do that, and a lot of people do. They just get in there and they start trying to level progress as fast as they can to get towards endgame, because that's where everybody thinks everything important is. And depending on the kind of gamer you are, that could be true. At least that's what's important to you. But again, that's where you have to try to expand your perspectives. Look at things from different perspectives while you're testing. Because if you're not, you're just playing, and that's not what closed or open betas are for. Really dig into things. If you're somebody who loves PvP and the PvP is one of the things that they want to test, absolutely get in there. Try some crazy weird shit and see if it breaks. And if it does, report it. How do you report it? Well, again, if you watched episode 1, one of the first things that you do is you search. Look and see if the bug's already been reported, because you may not be the first person who's found it. Now, if you know how to write a good quality bug, and your bug format is rock solid, and people like game developers come back to you and say, dude, that was a really awesome bug. Thanks, but I have never seen anybody write a bug quite that clearly before. They go, and I have had that happen. So that feels amazing when a game developer comes back and is like, dude, That bug was spot on. Thanks very much for that. It was very, very easy to find out exactly what it was and to fix it. Hey, no problem. I work QA. And he's like, really? Where? And it just spirals off into this whole conversation. And next thing you know, you've got a buddy at a major, MMO game house. That can be very cool. Drifting again. Search for the bug. There may be 30 bugs in there already. Read them. Find out if they've written the bugs well or not, because if they haven't, there's your chance. Sit down and write a good quality bug with a proper bug format that no one can contest. It's a good, solid quality bug. How do you do that? Again, either go back and watch episode 1 or keep watching here. You start out with your summary, which is basically a newspaper headline. It's kind of like your search parameters. If you wanted to search for it, what are the words that you would use? In episode 1, I said, let's say, for example, you're going to go crafting, and you go to the tailoring table, and you put a bolt of wool and a skein of thread, or maybe it's a skein. Can't ever remember. Feel free to let me know in the comments, and I'm sure people back and forth. Anyway, thread and spool of thread and needle on the thing, and you say, hey, I want to make a wool blanket, craft it, and you've got a copper breastplate in your inventory, and you're like, no, that's not quite right. So what would the summary be? Tailoring table produces copper breastplate. It's just like a newspaper headline. It gives everything you need to know about what that bug is about. And anybody who's searching for it, as long as they put tailoring and copper in this thing, they will almost certainly find this. And then there's the body of the bug. You got your steps to reproduction. Again, make them incredibly simple. That way, nobody can get confused by them. You could hand the controls to your grandmother and say, here, Nana, do this. And she will follow those steps to reproduction. And every single time she will reproduce that bug. Every single time. So the steps to reproduction say, go here, do this, and this should happen. Don't ever use the word should. You are not the game designer. You are not the one who decides what it should or shouldn't do. That is subjective. You want to make your bugs objective, based absolutely in fact. This is where I went. This is what I did. This is what I expected to happen. That is fact. This is what should happen. No. You don't get to make that call. Sorry, you don't. You can tell them what you expected, but not what should happen. So, I went here, I did this. This is what happened, or this is what I expected to happen, but this is what happened. So, steps to reproduction, expected result, actual result. And then in your notes, then you can get subjective and start talking about the way it seemed things should have gone, or whatever. Or you can put in, this bug is only reproducible 30% of the time, blah, 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 whatever. So you put in a good, solid quality bug. Now, if you want to, you can make references to the other bugs in the database. Maybe some of them have slightly different steps to reproduction that produce the same thing. Those differences could be the big hook that gets the developer to realize, oh, crap, I know exactly what that is. And because you took the time to not only write a quality bug, but reference another bug that had slightly different steps to reproduction, that might be the key that actually helps him figure it out faster. He figures it out faster, he gets the fix in faster, you move on, the game is better for it, and everybody's freaking happy. And on you go. Aside from that, go out, find bugs, report bugs, regress bugs if you get the opportunity. When you're doing like a beta or something, it's unlikely that the bugs will be sent back to you for regression. In other words, here I fixed this, please check it again. It's unlikely that would happen. It's a chance. There's a chance it'll happen, but it's not likely. But keep a list of your bugs. Every bug you enter, keep a list of them in like a Word document or a spreadsheet or something. And then when new builds come out later on, check them, see if they're still there. And if they are, go back to your bug in the database and say, as of this build, issue still occurs. That way they know you're still watching. You're still paying attention. Because we are accountants. That's what we do. So now what? What do? We get into the game, we go in there, we play a lot, because really it's, when you're this excited about something, like an open or a closed beta, you want to get in there, and you want to play, because you are so desperate to get your hands on this game. There's been so much hype about it, and you want to see if it lives up to its hype, or, again, I understand the bragging rights. And even if it's not bragging rights, just the ability to go into work the next day and say, dude, I got into the beta, oh my God. It is so gorgeous. Oh, that was kind of what I did with Neverwinter when that beta came out. I played Neverwinter very early back when the Neverwinter Nights, like back in the 80s. Oh God, no, 90s, sorry. Stroke the gray a little bit more. So it was a great game, really great game. Neverwinter was pretty flat, however. The new one that was, oh man, Neverwinter's pretty. Oh, and it's huge. It's gigantic, and it's got a lot of different levels to it. Anyway, I was very, very thrilled to be able to get in there, because Neverwinter is just. It's one of my favorite D&D campaigns that ever came out. I really enjoyed the initial game and almost all the games since then. And the fact that they were coming out with an MMO sounded like a lot of fun, and I wanted to get involved. Now that Elder Scrolls Online is coming out, and I've signed up for the beta on that, I cannot wait to get in there and start playing. Yes, I want to play it. But I know it's not done yet. I know that there's still a lot of work to do on it. And yes, I will test it. I won't just play it. I will play it, but I won't just play it. I will test it too. Fine. Whatever. God. So there you go. That's basically what you got to do to either get into a beta or an alpha or whatever, and once you're in there, that's what you got to do. Get in there and honestly put yourself to work. You're in there because you're a gamer, you like the game, it's that particular type, that particular genre, that particular whatever. And the fact that you are a fan should make you uniquely equipped to go in there and find what should or shouldn't be in there. That's why you get selected, because the powers that be that are making the game, they want people to go in there, find the bugs, report them well, and help them make the game better. That's what we're there for, that's what we do. And when the game comes out, then you get your bragging rights. I helped make this game what it is. I helped make this game better. There's your bragging rights. And those you earned. So, questions, comments, other things that you think that I didn't cover, that I should add a fourth episode about or something? Whatever. Put it downstairs. Also, I think the like button is down over here somewhere. Make judicious use of it. If you don't know what that means, look it up. I mean the word judicious, not the word use. Please do. If you liked it, like it. And do that for everybody, not just me. I mean, I've seen a lot of people who watch YouTube, but never mind. I am not going to get into this right now. That's like QAing how people use YouTube. I'm not that kind of tester. Sorry. No. Anyway. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, click like. Add a comment below. Let me know what you thought of this. And maybe what more you'd like to see. Alright? And hopefully I'll see you guys in game. Ciao.